You never thought you'd see this. Bill Maher sent a shockwave across the establishment media for daring to praise Donald Trump after their meeting at the White House. And I think it's gotten just the right set of people upset on both ends of the spectrum. Watch what he said, and I think you'll see why.
The guy I met is not the person who the night before the dinner tweeted a bunch of nasty crap about how he thought this dinner was a bad idea and what a deranged asshole I was. I read it and thought, oh, what a lovely way to welcome someone to your house. But when I got there, that guy wasn't living there. Now, does Trump want respect? Of course, who doesn't? My friend said to me, what are you going to wear to the White House? I said, I don't know, but I'm not going to dress like Zelensky, I'll tell you that. But, okay. Just for starters, he laughs. I'd never seen him laugh in public, but he does, including at himself. And it's not fake. Believe me, as a comedian of 40 years, I know a fake laugh when I hear it. And I thank you for them. No. Okay, example, in the Oval Office, he was showing me the portraits of presidents, and he pointed to Reagan and said, in all seriousness, you know, the best thing about him, his hair. I said, well, there was also that whole bringing down communism thing, waiting for the button next to the Diet Coke button to get pushed and I go through the trap door. But no, he laughed, he got it. I said to him at one point, Mr. President, you know the dog, that's unusual in the White House. He said, well, a lot of the presidents, they had a dog for political reasons. I said, no, people love dogs, that's what that is. Oh yeah, okay, that's true.
Now take a step back for the bigger picture, because whether you call it opportunism or evolution, Bill Maher falling out with the far-left dominated Democratic Party wasn't exactly met with some appreciation for why so many on the right and center-right flocked to Donald Trump, perhaps until now. In fact, I think ever since Donald Trump walked down the escalator in 2016, Bill Maher traded words and lawsuits with a president that he couldn't stop comparing to a dictator. By the way, this channel is where you find the real story the mainstream media is hiding from you, so be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to never miss out. Now, I know it's Kid Rock that brought the two together for a reluctant meeting, but imagine how big of a culture figure the left risks losing if this tone continues.
I'm actually going to try to unite this country, and I'm starting at the end of the month. I'm taking Bill Maher to the White House for dinner. This guy's done nothing but talk smack about the president since day one.
And you know why I say that? We're already hearing incredible backlash from the far left toward Bill Maher, who they claim is cozying up to a dictator, as well as to the Republican base from the far right, who claim the conservatives can't stop wanting approval from people who hate them. That's how Laura Loomer had put it, at least, calling conservatives simps for cheering this on, and that's a sign that this meeting has upset just the right group of people.
So, meet up in person. Maybe it'll be different. Spoiler alert, it was. First good sign, before I left for the Capitol, I had my staff collect and print out this list of almost 60 different insulting epithets that the president has said about me. Things like stupid, dummy, lowlife dummy, sleazebag, sick, sad, stone cold crazy. Really a dumb guy, fired like a dog, his show is dead. There's 60. I brought this to the White House because I wanted him to sign it. Which he did. Which he did with good humor. And I know as I say that, millions of liberal sphincters just tightened. Oh my God, Bill, are you going to say something nice about him? What I'm going to do is report exactly what happened. You decide what you think about it. And if that's not enough pure Trump hate for you, I don't give a f.
Now, how charitable are you going to be towards someone that engaged in that same sort of behavior that he's now on the receiving end of? Remember, even Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski practically put their careers on the line when they finally decided to go meet the president at the White House, considering the backlash that they got. But this one seems different because it's commensurate with Bill Maher realizing over the last few years that at least the modern Democratic Party can no longer be his political and ideological home, and he's receiving a treatment now that should jolt him back to reality. For example, commentator Keith Olbermann wrote on X, quote, "By the way, don't overanalyze Maher prostituting himself to Trump. Maher works for the same fascists at Warner who took over and corrupted CNN. I've known Bill since 1978. He was a shameless opportunist with no real principles then, and he remains so now. This is so he can keep his HBO show," comedian D.L. Hewley said. Bill Maher was participating in a transaction with Trump, and Bill's guest on his next show, Josh Rogan, said he was just a prop for Donald Trump. That's the kind of response he's getting from people he thought would be all for building bridges.
He's much more self-aware than he lets on in public. Look, I get it. It doesn't matter who he is at a private dinner with a comedian. It matters who he is on the world stage. I'm just taking as a positive that this person exists, because everything I've ever not liked about him was, I swear to God, absent, at least on this night with this guy. Bob, Kid Rock, told me the night before, he said, if you want to get a word in edgewise, you're going to have to cut him off. He'll just go on. Not at all. I've had so many conversations with prominent people who are much less connected, people who don't look you in the eye, people who don't really listen because they just want to get to their next thing, people whose response to things you say just doesn't track, like, what? None of that with him. And he mostly steered the conversation to, what do you think about this? I know, your mind is blown, so's mine.
It is incredible, though, that he has to actively go meet someone in person after a decade of friction to be able to pick up on these basic character traits, which perhaps shows you how easy it is to section yourself off in the online and virtual world if you refuse to speak. Even Donald Trump put out a lengthy post on Truth Social the night before their meeting, predicting that Bill Maher would, quote, publicly proclaim him as a terrible guy after their meeting. But of course, that's not what we saw, at least not now.
I never felt I had to walk on eggshells around him. And honestly, I voted for Clinton and Obama, but I would never feel comfortable talking to them the way I was able to talk with Donald Trump. That's just how it went down. Make of it what you will. Me, I feel it's emblematic of why the Democrats are so unpopular these days. He was even okay when I checked him on the orangutan lawsuit. He was. He said to Dana White, you know, Bill said my father was an orangutan, and I really love my father. And I said, well, Mr. President, I did that because I didn't like what you were doing regarding Obama's birth origins. I thought that was low. Again, no anger, just a little smile as if to say, yeah, I get it.
And for that, Bill Maher represents a very interesting political center right now that can manage to offend both ends of the extreme while also having some respect and credence from both sides. That's really the sweet spot to be in politically, in my opinion, as a centrist, and even when it comes to your media relevance. So whether it's genuine or not, it's not for us to decide, but Bill has certainly positioned himself well for the next 4 years of Donald Trump. Tell me in the comments what you think about this development, because not a lot of people saw this coming before the election.